On this vote, the yeas are 219 and the nays are 211. The joint resolution is passed. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Republican tensions exploded into public view as Trump's sweeping tariffs faced rare GOP resistance in a dramatic House vote on February 11th. 6 Republicans broke ranks to challenge the president's authority. The GOP-led chamber voted 219 to 211 to overturn tariffs on Canada imposed under an emergency declaration.
On this vote, the yeas are 219 and the nays are 211. The joint resolution is passed. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
That declaration has served as the legal backbone for Trump's aggressive use of import taxes on key allies. For months, frustration had simmered quietly among Republicans uneasy with the scope of the tariffs. Some lawmakers argued the policy clashed with traditionally conservative, free market economic principles. Speaker Mike Johnson had previously blocked efforts to force votes challenging the president's trade powers. A procedural maneuver shielded the White House from internal party rebellions for nearly a year. But patience ran thin as the Supreme Court delayed ruling on the limits of presidential tariff authority. The February 11th vote marked the first significant crack in unified Republican support for the policy. Democrats joined 6 Republicans to rescind the emergency declaration targeting Canadian imports. The Republicans who voted yes included Thomas Massie, Brian Fitzpatrick, and Don Bacon. They were joined by Dan Newhouse, Jeff Hurd, and Kevin Kiley in defying the president. One Democrat, Jared Golden of Maine, crossed party lines to preserve the tariffs.
The American people are watching. This is very simple. Why did we take a year to get this vote? Because Trump's tariffs are unpopular, and the majority of Americans know it, and the majority of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle don't want to be on the record. Well, we're going to be on the record. We know that more than 60% of Americans disapprove of these tariffs. They know that the foreign governments don't pay these tariffs. They know that American families do. The farmers feel it. Small businesses feel it. Moms and dads feel it every time that they see the prices at the grocery store. So what this is, we can go back and forth, but the American people are watching. They're the ultimate judges. They can see, they can hear. They know our friends, they know how Canada and Canadians are friendly to us in the United States of America. Closest partners. Many Canadians given their lives for us. So the American people can watch.
Every single item that they like to talk about tariffs and Canada, are literally items that are exempt from tariffs in Canada. It's very important, certainly as one of 435 in the House of Representatives, that you know what you're talking about. It is especially important as the number 2 person in the Foreign Affairs Committee that you know what you're talking about when you talk about tariffs. There are not Canada beef tariffs, not Canada potash tariffs, or dairy or food or grain or fertilizer tariffs, and the list goes on and on. They mentioned coffee I don't know how many times. The only thing that there are tariffs on are things that are coming in from third-party countries into Canada and then coming into the United States of America. But if it's grown in Canada, there's not a tariff on it. It's very important that my colleagues know that and recognize that and speak accurately in the positions that they're in.
President Trump responded swiftly, issuing a political warning on Truth Social. He threatened serious primary consequences for any Republican opposing his tariff strategy. The president framed loyalty to tariffs as a defining issue ahead of the upcoming elections. Supporters of the repeal say the measures strain relations with one of America's closest allies. The legislation now moves to the Senate, where its future remains uncertain. Several Republican senators have also voiced concern over the emergency tariff powers. Even if the Senate passes the bill, it would likely face a presidential veto. Overriding that veto would require bipartisan margins that currently appear out of reach. Democrats plan to introduce additional resolutions targeting tariffs on other countries. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court is weighing whether the Constitution permits such sweeping tax authority.
Gentleman from New York is recognized.
Well, I think I've heard that story before, that it's all about drugs. If I don't recall correctly, the former president of Honduras, he probably put more drugs in the United States than Canada has combined. But the president of the United States didn't say that was an emergency. He pardoned him. Heard it before. It's all about drugs. That was the case. What is the case, what is the fact, is that in the last year, tariffs has cost American families nearly $1,700. And that cost is expected to increase in 2026. That's the case. And since these tariffs was imposed, U.S. exports to Canada have fallen by more than 21%. When I go home, my constituents aren't telling me that they have an extra $1,700 to spare. They're asking me to lower grocery prices, lower the price of health care, and make life more affordable. That's what this is about. It's about the American people and making things affordable for them. So, today's vote is simple. Very simple. Will you vote to lower the cost of living for the American families? Or will you keep prices high out of loyalty to one person, Donald J. Trump? That's what this vote is. That's why we pressed for this vote today. That's why a day is a day. And we finally get our chance to have the members of the House vote their conscience. Do they vote for the president and his ways, or do they vote for their people, their constituencies? So let's be clear about this so-called emergency Donald Trump declared on Canada and so many other countries where no emergency exists. You know, for over 50 years, emergency authorities have been declared. Let's see, what have they been? Civil wars? Yes. Pandemics? I think that's an emergency. Massive human rights crises? That could be an emergency. But none of those things is Canada. Canada isn't a threat. Canada is our friend. Canada is our ally. Canadians have fought alongside Americans, whether it was in World War II or the war in Afghanistan, where 165 Canadians gave their lives after our country were attacked. There is no national emergency. There is no national security threat underpinning these threats. In an interview just last night, Donald J. Trump admitted he placed tariffs on Switzerland. Why? I'll tell you why. Simply because he didn't like the way its leaders spoke to him. So he put tariffs on Switzerland. That's not a strategy. That's impulse. That's a person who's just trying to say that he's the king. And guess what? For that impulse, who's going to pay the price for it? Who's going to pay the price for that impulse? I'll tell you who. It's the American people. Your morning coffee, your kids' chocolate, life-saving medical devices. Guess what? Those are the Canadian goods that are being hit by 35% tariffs. Americans are paying more for health care and their daily essentials during an affordability crisis. Why? Because of a manufactured emergency and one person's ego. And the damage doesn't stop there. American products, what about them? Well, guess what? They are being boycotted across Canada. Now, don't believe me? Just look at the president's social media post from just 2 days ago, where he said, quote, Ontario won't even put the U.S. spirits, beverages, or other alcoholic products on their shelves. Tourism from Canada is down 30%. People in the hospitality industry, Las Vegas, my home state of New York, Chairman's home state of Florida, are losing their jobs because Canadians do not want to come to the United States of America.